Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today we have a missing an MIA guest. She's MIA. She thought we were meeting at a different time, but she should be joining us very shortly. So if you are already bored, hang on.
Stay tuned.
Because we will have a guest popping on shortly. But today's the Q&A with Kait, Callahan. And good thing I didn't put a question box up because we would have gotten no questions. But Aram did, and he got a bunch of questions.
We didn't get that many. We got some fun ones, but we got some silly ones. We got some of the general, like, hey, love your stuff. And like,
let's address that question first.
All right, perfect.
So one person said, no question, just want to say you're awesome. Keep that shit up.
I mean, do we need the expletives?
I hate when people fucking curse. Cursing just shows a lack of intelligence.
It does.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, you just can't find any other fucking words for it.
Yeah, it's just pathetic to be such a shitty, unintelligent fucking human that you feel the need to curse.
And then you have to actually spend the time to type it out.
Yeah. It's like so you consciously thought of a low intellectual level word, typed it out, and then chose to leave it there.
Yep.
So whatever,
yeah,
whatever.
Whatever. Hey, I'm not gonna knock it because I'll take the compliment.
Yeah, we're not judging. We're not judging. No, You're just
Lord
of
knows.
less. We're just assuming you have less intelligence.
You're a mouth breather. Eat shit.
Yes. Did we talk about that before? Mouth breather?
No, I forgot who turned me on to that term, but I do enjoy it.
So I watched a thing years ago. And since my vocabulary is so good, I just use the word thing for everything.
Right.
Instead of saying like documentary.
I watched this thing someday.
I watched this thing someday
with
a long time ago. And they were talking about that, like how people look stupid and there's science behind it.
Oh, was it with the protruding forehead?
It might have been. I just remember the mouth breather thing that basically it was saying that people with lower breath he's making a mouth breather face, that people with lower intelligence have less brain activity going on and they just end up having like a more relaxed face, like this mouth open face. So when you picture somebody and you're like, you just look dumb.
Yeah.
There's science behind that. So if our recommendation to you is if you are dumb or not dumb, but you tend to walk around with your mouth open, the phrase mouth breather literally has science behind it that you are of lower brain activity. That's why you just let your mouth hang open. Now, my brain activity is so high that I constantly have a clenched jaw.
and his mouth doesn't stop moving.
And a furrowed brow. I have a very intense, angry look because my brain is so high functioning. But I don't fucking curse because I'm not a fucking idiot piece of shit loser.
I did read at some point that men with a small forehead and a protruding eyebrow are of lower intelligence.
That's like Cro-Magnon, Cro-Magnon man. Yeah,
that's what it is. It's exactly that. It's like you never actually evolved from a knuckle dragger, to somebody who was actually a bipod. Is that that's a bipod, right?
You're a tripod, from what I hear.
No. It's. I wish.
I'll send you a picture. I found a towel today.
Oh, is it the dick towel?
The dick towel.
The reversible dick towel? I have one of those. Dude, I've been on dicktowel.com for years.
From years ago, but I feel like it was like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia thing.
Nope. That's where it was. Yes. They started a website called dicktowel.com.
Yes.
I bought one. I wore it everywhere. I still have it hanging up in my house.
I just found it today.
And I always wear it with the small one, with the small side.
Yes, I'll send you the picture. Hendrix wanted to wear it, and I go, "You want the big one or the small one?" He's like, "The small one."
I like that. He's confident already.
Yeah, he knows.
He's
He
gonna be
does.
a fucking champion.
We'll see. We'll see, man. So do you want to answer let's
Let's
answer
let's
this
let's let's
one.
play. Let's start with this first. This one, I have to address this one, and we have to
Okay.
address this one together.
I'm curious.
So we're not gonna. Do we want to call people out on what they asked, or do we want to leave their Instagram handles private? Let's
We
leave
can
them
just say
private.
their first name.
No, let's just leave them completely. It's either we're gonna say their name or we're not gonna. All right, fine, fuck it.
Just say their just say their
Mike,
first name. Yeah, you don't have to say their
Mike,
whole tag.
Mike asks, why do people emulate people that end up being in a wheelchair, i.e., Ronnie Coleman? Now, Mike, if you're listening, which I don't think you are, I think that's a stupid question
Why do you think it's a stupid question? I feel like he
because
uh
because
he already
he's
he
trying
already
to.
has an answer.
He has an answer. He's trying to stir the pot, and I don't want to say he because maybe he's using a different pronoun. They are trying to stir up the pot, and they're trying to do it in the and I say this because he's interacted with some of my content before, and it's been
Okay.
in a very similar spirit where he likes to rile shit up, which is fine. Like I don't mind some discourse,
Yeah.
but he's very much he's this like he's a I think he's like I don't know if he's a single dad or he's a dad, but he's
Well, I'm
like
looking at his page right now. He's got a
like
woman in a thong sitting on his lap,
recently like
riding
started to get
him, and
recently
he's
start like got into fitness
what the fuck is going on in that post?
and he's very like anti bodybuilding um
Oh, I can
which
I
is
can I can see that from his build,
so he's
which
very anti
sounds awful.
bodybuilding. So when I'm going to make the assumption that by asking the question, why do people emulate people that end up being in a wheelchair, and because he's specifically referencing Ronnie Coleman, that's his way of stabbing at bodybuilding. So he's saying is
Yes.
why would people want to go into the lengths of putting their body through what bodybuilders put themselves through to then end up crippled? Now, Mike, I would say that the longevity of bodybuilding from an orthopedic standpoint is probably better than any other sport out there. I don't have any evidence to back that up, but anecdotally, from what I've seen over the course of my lifetime and what I've seen from working with various populations of people and what I understand about biomechanics and stress mitigation, bodybuilding gives you the best possible chance to not be a fucking cripple, actually.
Yeah, and I
If
think
you look at Ronnie Coleman got hurt chronically because he was lifting super physiological weight constantly.
yeah.
He was kind of like that 3 rep maxer as a bodybuilder. Like he was probably one of the biggest bodybuilders on earth ever, and he was probably the strongest
Strongest, I was gonna say, definitely up there.
bodybuilder ever. Which you don't need to be strong to be a bodybuilder. You're going to get some strength being a bodybuilder, but you don't need to be strong to be a bodybuilder. If you want to be the
Lightweight, baby.
strongest, if
Lightweight,
you want to be
baby.
the strongest person on earth, you either want to be a strongman, a power lifter, an Olympic weightlifter. All 3 of those modalities are way more dangerous orthopedically than bodybuilding will ever be.
And I think
So,
the average person, even just saying, why do people emulate anybody who's emulating, not just kind of admiring or looking up to somebody's emulating somebody like Ronnie Coleman or somebody
yes,
in the sport of that level of bodybuilding, they know there's a consequence and a side effect. It would be
of
like
course.
asking, I don't know why people are emulating linemen in the NFL when they have all this brain trauma. Well,
Right.
it so then don't play sports ever,
Right. Yeah.
you know?
Just don't leave your house. Wrap yourself in a bubble and never leave the house. But I just think I don't like those spirited questions because it puts you're not curiously asking a question because you care to know what our answer is. You're asking a question just to hear a response so that you can get a reaction out of somebody because you're that fucking bored with yourself. And
Well, and
again,
I
I've
think it's
dealt with
from
this guy.
like there's that insecurity aspect of going, I know that I'm not going to put the work in to be like that. So therefore, if somebody is putting work in to be like that, they've got mental problems. And maybe
Which is
they
like,
do. Maybe they do. But it's like, what's the point of bringing it up?
give me the non-judgmental bodybuilder who's working on himself or herself every single day with their nutrition, their fitness, their mindset, their goals, their aspirations over bystander who's asking dumb questions on Instagram. Next,
Yeah.
I don't even want to fucking give that guy any more of their time.
I'm
Fuck
thinking
him.
Monica's question here is a good
Which one?
one. How to help my lower back pain while wanting to lift heavier in progressive overload.
I like that one. Monica, great
So,
question. Jim?
so uh, me being somebody who has dealt with back pain,
Who has the worst back on the planet?
had back surgery a dozen years ago. Um, recently had an episode where I ended up in the ER just this past week with my lower back for no woke up, tweaked. 2 days later, I ended up in the ER. Now I'm fine. Next day after, I was fine. Got whatever meds I needed to kind of loosen things up to get me going again. But I firmly believe in strengthening your core as much as possible. If the things that you are doing in your quest for progressive overload are causing back pain, you need to stop. You need to pull back, stop attempting to progress, get comfortable just with the rep range, maybe at a lower weight. Really maybe have somebody analyze your form and your technique, see if you are missing something that's causing it, see if there is a mobility issue, if there's something going on that's causing it to tweak. You should not be having back pain even while pursuing progressive overload. So if you are, there's either some kind of a core weakness or some kind of muscular imbalance or some kind of a technique or form issue that's going on that needs to be addressed. No matter how bad my back is, I'm still a huge fan of deadlifts. Deadlifts, sometimes when my back's a little bit tweaked, that's the first thing I'm going to are deadlifts. And because of my back injury, my deadlifts got good. They got better. I never really focused on form before. I tweak it and had that same thought that a lot of people do of deadlifts are bad for your back. It's like, no, bad deadlifts are bad for your back.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
sure you had something to add to it.
that's perfect. The only thing I would add to it is I think people misunderstand what the word core means. Everybody thinks of their core as their ab muscles, right? Like their six pack, their rectus abdominis.
Yes, I
But
have not done a sit up in years.
you do a sit up every morning when you get out of bed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Not the way. It's more of a rollover.
It's a roll. It's an active roll.
It's a rollover.
So the core is not just your rectus abdominis muscles. It's not just those 6, 8 ab muscles that are not visible on either me or Jim. It really just involves the interaction between your rib cage and your pelvis. So if you understand how to manipulate and control that area, so essentially everything from nipples to knees is your core. If that area is strong, that's number one. Number one is strength. If it's strong, it's probably stable. But it also needs to be able to be mobile, which means that you have to understand how to move it and when to move it and how to segregate the movements if need be. Because if you're doing a hip hinge, right, if you're hinging your hips backwards to do a deadlift, that means that's going to look and feel distinctly different than a squat. The reason why a lot of people, and this is a very it's not that it's not common in male lifters versus female lifters. I think it's a bit more common in female lifters because female lifters tend to have a bit more lordosis of the spine. Lordosis just means that lower back curve that we have as humans. And if you look at
It's the anterior pelvic tilt from trying to show the butt.
And it's not even just trying to show the butt. It's just that's the physiology of the woman. They're just built that way because that's the way the woman's body is built. It's got a little bit more lordosis than a man's body does. That's an area of vulnerability for people. So if that area isn't manipulated properly during those lifts, you have a natural weak point immediately, and that's where all the stress is going to go. So things like breathing and bracing techniques, things like understanding your pelvic floor and learning how to manipulate that, learning how to position your body properly, what implements to use, how weight pressure through your feet, having to wear a weight belt maybe here and there.
I was gonna say stop wearing a weight belt. If you're wearing the weight belt, stop, lower the weight, because when you wear the weight belt, now you have no reason for your transverse abdominis, these muscles that wrap around your core that basically are the musculature that is shaped and in the direction of a weight belt. There's no reason for those muscles to ever get stronger. So now you're just relying on a weight belt to maintain intra-abdominal pressure to help support your spine, and you're never actually getting those muscles stronger. So
Yes.
doing a lot of planks, every variation of plank possible to get those transverse abdominis, the muscles that are wrapping around your core and supporting your spine, getting those stronger, are huge. I never use a weight belt anymore. I'm at the point, like, I have no interest in lifting a weight that I need a weight belt for.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That's
So,
where I'm at.
getting your core stronger, any front supported movement, doing goblet squats, front squats, holding dumbbells and doing Bulgarian split squats, things where like you just have to really one arm farmer carries as heavy as you can on maybe on one side and just walking, keeping yourself straight up. These are ways to strengthen that core, and mentioning that anterior pelvic tilt, or that low back arch that maybe more women have, kind of learning to position yourself. And I like how James Smith says it, getting that extra inch. I don't know if
Yeah.
you ever seen him. So it's like if you picture you're a guy and you're riding somebody from behind and you got to thrust forward to get that extra inch in.
Oh yeah.
That is that you're shifting from anterior pelvic tilt to posterior pelvic tilt. That is going to help a little bit. I remember having to do to help support my core, uh, squeezing in, like kind of like you're sucking in the pubic area,
Yeah.
like a zip, like where your zipper is, and you're just sucking that in, kind of like a Kegel exercise type of a thing, to help support some of those muscles that are really deep inside to help support your back. But yeah, I don't know
And
if
it's a
we answered
practice.
it or not.
No, it's a practice, folks. I think a lot of people think that this is going to be something that just gets resolved relatively quickly, but it is a light bulb type of thing that does happen with this type of a movement, because
Yeah,
once you start to feel good under load, you gain confidence under load. So then you're able to load more significantly, which means then you're able to actually practice more of that transverse breathing and bracing. And it actually does end up strengthening stuff. Now, it's not a six-pack exercise. It's not a right. It's not going to reveal any type of abdominal muscles, but it's going to bulletproof your lower back. Strong glutes, strong
yes,
hamstrings, strong transverse abdominis, but also mobile hamstrings, mobile glutes. Sitting on your ass all day in a hip hinge position, or in a knee flex position, rather, hip flex position, is going to shorten those muscles and make them inactive. So when we're sitting all day and then we're not properly warming up prior to a lower body exercise or lower body days, that's going to exacerbate a lot of these problems. I think we
yeah.
beat that to death.
And I think, well, I wanted to
Um,
say too, last point on it is start to maybe your perspective shift, start to shift from I need to progressively overload from where I'm at now to let's go back to where you can move without pain and work
yep,
on progressively overloading from that point.
very good
And then
advice.
as you build up, you'll find that you'll actually start to exceed some of the plateaus that you might be in once you actually get that core. So start fresh, find the weight that it doesn't cause pain, really work on the form, all the things that we just said, and then that's your new starting point, and then work on progressive overload from there.
Excellent. I mean, that was, I think that's the perfect one right there.
Damn,
It's,
fucking
yeah, really good.
God. I feel like somebody should ask me to speak at the Real Coaches Summit.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
next year we'll see. Uh, I don't like any question that starts with the word best of anything, but we'll tackle that.
Jackie.
Monica, you want to go to Jackie?
Oh, did Monica ask one? Oh, yeah, go with the Monica one.
So anytime
Or should
you
we
ask,
save this for Kate?
there's a couple that I think Kate will take very well.
Okay.
Um, so Monica asked best exercises to grow the booty.
Mm.
Um, now I have my favorites and my ideals, and you can agree or disagree with me. But at the end of the day, no matter what exercise you're doing,
Follow
remember you're
Brett
not.
Contreras.
Yeah, that too. He
Next
is the boot
question.
guy.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, you could end it right there. That's the only content he makes. So if you need any content on booty growth, Brett Contreras. Um, you have to at least, unless you're severely over fat, you have to at least be at maintenance to grow anything. So immediately understand that. Like if you're in a chronic deficit and you're not tracking calories, you're not doing any of this stuff, and you're trying to grow muscles. Like I had that come up on our exploration call a couple of weeks ago. you're not going to grow shit unless you're eating for it. So right off the bat, you could be wasting your effort by eating too little, or by not eating appropriately, or by not tracking what you're eating. So make sure that the number one thing is you understand what is coming in and why. And then my favorites for booty growth are any type of a hip thrust, any type of a hip thrust. I don't care if it's a barbell, machine, dumbbell, whatever. I don't care how you do it. Hip thrust is great, safe range of motion, relatively easy setup. I think if your gym has one of those hip thrust machines, awesome. You don't have to deal with putting the fucking barbell on your hips, which is awesome. I'd say second to that is some type of a deficit reverse lunge. So the working foot is elevated about 6 to 8 inches off the floor, and you're stepping down to really lengthen the glute at the bottom, and then shorten it as you come up. I like doing this with one dumbbell or in a Smith machine. If you're doing it with one dumbbell, make sure that the other arm is bracing on something, so you're not completely just doing this off in space, and you can really handle some heavy weight. But to alleviate that,
So describe it. Describe it. The dumbbell is in my left hand.
So if it's your right,
my left foot is going back.
Correct.
Yeah, just want to make sure that.
Yeah. Well, you have ipsilateral and contralateral. Now we can go down that rabbit hole. I don't care how you load it. As long as you're comfortable and you're able to produce the range of motion that we need, you can put the dumbbell in the hand of the working leg or the opposite hand. As long as you're braced and you have 4 points of contact, you shouldn't be using too much oblique. I like the Smith machine for this because the Smith machine takes all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
You put the weight on the bar, you put the box underneath the Smith machine, you're going to work. You're done.
Yeah.
And then I would say, in addition to that, any type of a squatting motion, whether it's a squat machine, whether it's a barbell back squat, but some people are knee dominant squatters, meaning that their knees are going to go a little bit further over their toes than some others. You're still going to get glutes in that. Like, I don't care how you slice it. There's still some glutes happening.
I love the debate, like when people try to go at Brett Contreras with the research that shows that squats activate the glutes more than a hip thrust. And and then he's basically like, cool, do both.
Right.
There's no denying that the hip thrust is effective. Like, just even a common sense approach at what the hip thrust is. How can you deny that that is activating glutes? Like, do both. Do all variations where your hip is bending. The more that it's actually bending than stretching the glute, the more you're going to get. And the one tip for people who are doing the hip thrusts is if you're feeling it a lot in your quads when you're doing a hip thrust, move your feet a little bit further away. Kait is coming on right now, but move the feet a little bit further away. I know when I was first doing the hip thrust, I just would tend to feel it a lot in my quad. And it was like, just get those feet a little bit away. And you should feel much more in the glutes. Kait, now that we got the glute queen on.
The glute queen is here.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure with that title. Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Jump right in. The water's warm. Best exercises to grow the booty.
We just answered. Do you have anything different, even though you have no idea what we just said?
We just said go to Brett Contreras' page.
Okay, well, that's actually really good advice. I would say one of the most important things is figuring out where your deficit is as far as engaging your glutes. So do you have a compensation pattern? Are you pulling more with hamstrings in certain exercises? Are you setting up your hip thrust appropriately to go through the entire range of motion? Are you intentionally engaging that muscle group, or do we have a compensation pattern that we've developed that we need to work through with maybe unilateral exercises? So I think
thanks for making us sound dumb. Jesus like, Christ!
Check out Brett Contreras.
God.
Shit. So right that would be my piece of feedback. As someone that did not have glutes, but I would say now we've got some decent glutes. I've had to put a lot of intention into my gluteness.
We try to talk as dumb as possible, which is very easy for us. You threw out a lot of multisyllabic words. I was completely lost.
Just make sure you feel it in the booty.
That's our audience. That's our audience.
Yeah, you there just figured this out.
My butt got flatter listening to you try to explain with all this technical.
That's because you're sitting on your ass all day, Jim.
Kait, I wanted to save this one for you.
Oh, yay.
Well, there's actually two that I wanted you to tackle.
Okay.
The the way that this question is worded doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe we can decipher it. The insulin resist is we're going to assume it
assuming
means insulin
resistance.
resistance is a primary risk factor of CVD and predicts CVD mortality better than LDL.
So cardiovascular.
So basically, yeah, they're asking, is insulin resistance a better predictor of CVD mortality, or is LDL?
I
mean,
I don't know the
I mean,
research on that.
my 2 cents on this is that if we could answer this question well, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. We would be fucking. We would be running a company. We would be running a company like Merrick Health.
No. But here's the thing. Like, okay, let's just play devil's advocate for 1 second. Okay. If indeed we have insulin resistance and we do not tackle that, what are the potential downsides of leaving that the way that it is? And if indeed you do seek out improvements in your LDL, you inevitably will likely improve your insulin resistance. So are they even separate issues, or does one get compounded in being addressed with the other? Which that's the argument that I would make, is if you prioritize one, inevitably metabolically, the other systems will improve. So I think I think we're getting lost in the weeds here. We have a metabolic issue across the board, and that's what we need to address by optimizing your movement, your daily activity, what types of exercise that you're doing. And inevitably that will eliminate the prolonged issue of sitting there twiddling your thumbs, deciding which one to address in the first place. I think that they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of the way a lot of people think and view stuff now. Like I only, what's the one thing I should worry about more? And then I can ignore the other stuff and I'll be fine.
Well, I mean, both of those, right? Increasing your activity factors and improving your diet, both of those, right? Regardless of what the lab says, I mean, both of those things are going to, those two items need to be addressed regardless of either of those being the predominating issue.
I think, and I also, in my belief system, your blood serum LDL and your blood serum insulin or blood glucose is not going to be as indicative of cardiovascular health as something like ApoB or C-reactive protein or calcium score test. So I would much rather go see those 3 numbers and see where those line up, and then see what my ratio of triglycerides is, HDL to LDL, versus just looking at a high LDL number or just looking at a high glucose number.
Right. And it's the entire panel, but even with cholesterol, right, some of that could be genetic. So regardless, like, there are certain lifestyle factors that we need to address if indeed either of those are the issue, but then we need a frame of reference as to, like, well, do other people in your family have high cholesterol? Like, what does that look like? What does your daily diet look like? Do you even work out? Like, how much activity are you getting on a daily basis? Are you eating a lot of processed and high fat foods? Like, okay, well, there's a lot of changes we can make that don't even require you to do a lot of work. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, I remember reading when it comes to cholesterol, like in France, the average total cholesterol is over 300, and they have much lower rates of cardiovascular disease and heart attacks. You know, there's so many other issues that are a concern. Our stress here, we don't drink enough wine, you know, stuff like that. Not enough cheese.
All right, so the next podcast we're doing, everyone's bringing wine, yeah?
Wine, yes. Yeah. I think the most badass question was, I thought this was so well thought out, because I just love the brain behind this question. Is it possible to treat pregnancy as a bulk? Meaning, can I still put on muscle?
That one jumped out.
I thought that was a fucking, as soon as she messaged me that, or as soon as she dropped that, I immediately responded and said, that is my favorite question. This is fucking badass. I can't wait to answer it.
Okay, well, since you're so excited, we'll let you lead.
Yeah.
I would not treat my pregnancy. Now, granted, I've only been pregnant once and I miscarried, so if that triggers anybody, I'm sorry. But I would not.
His body currently identifies as pregnant, though.
Yeah, it looks pregnant.
Listen, I was invited on this podcast. Do not come for me for political reasons.
You have to think about it this way. Like, let's say even if you're eating at maintenance while you're pregnant, the food is not going directly towards. It's not getting partitioned towards muscle tissue first. It's going to be preferentiated towards feeding the fetus first. So muscle protein synthesis will decline slightly. You're probably going to have a little bit less glycogen storage than you would. So is your pregnancy a time to grow muscle, or is it a time to maybe keep and retain some strength, some tissue, stay active, and reduce the stress response on the body. That would be my look at it. And then would you want to induce a surplus during a pregnancy? Possibly. Is that surplus going to go towards muscle tissue growth? I would probably argue that it wouldn't. So I don't think it would be a good period of time to be growing tissue.
Okay. Do you want to go, Jimmy, or do you want me to go?
You could go. I had some concerns about that question, but
Okay.
I'll let you go first.
So I think my first point would be, I don't think that anybody needs to treat any phase of their health and fitness journey as a bulk. Like, I just think bulking in general is not a psychological space to be in, because really what you're doing is you're saying, can I justify eating like an asshole because I'm pregnant, and if I lift weights I can call it a bulk, right? Like, I just want to call a spade a spade. And so with that premise, I just have to say, no, I don't think that that's necessary, because again, what we don't want to do, especially as your body is going to put on more weight, it is going to be driven to put on more fat tissue, then we can see metabolic issues arise just because you didn't handle it focusing on, okay, I want to stay healthy, I want to stay fit, I want to stay active, I want to fuel my body appropriately, make sure I'm getting micronutrients and a plethora of vitamins and minerals to help support myself as well as the child that I'm growing. Like, those things are significantly more important. And you also have to understand that everybody's transition through pregnancy is very drastically different. The first trimester is usually hell for most women. They're very sick. They don't feel well. Their energy's low. They're always hungry, but then they eat and then they're not hungry anymore. They have weird food cravings, right? So you have to also audit yourself and go, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling. What one really good decision can I make today that's going to align with prioritizing my health? And maybe that's drinking a little bit more water. Maybe that's not driving through the Wendy's drive-through, right? Maybe it's not buying into that craving, going, okay, well, I can address that with choosing this. And I think I think the real answer to this is, you don't need to try to diet through pregnancy.
That's for damn
And you
sure.
shouldn't have any type of driven aesthetic goal with that pursuit. And so if you can remove weight loss and you can remove any type of physique optimization from that timeline, then it goes, okay, the foundational and fundamental focus should be, can I make sure that if I'm not healthy right now, I'm getting healthy, and I'm incorporating habits and systems so that not only will they carry me through pregnancy being healthy and my child being healthy, but will help me bounce back after pregnancy because I've built these habits into my day-to-day routine.
Yeah. My concern, what you said right away, was my concern when I hear the word bulk with that question. Are you just using this as an excuse to eat whatever you want? And I think that women need to understand that your current level of training, you can continue that through the majority of your pregnancy, assuming you have no issues. I do not think it's a time for you to increase intensity in any way, shape, or form. Whatever intensity your body's used to, you can continue that. I mean, I've seen women doing CrossFit, doing cleans over a 8-month full belly, and it's impressive stuff. But yeah, I would not. Yeah, I'm with you with what you just said, Kate, that this is not a time to be bulking. The word is a concern, and I would not add stress to your body at that point. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Boom.
This is a good one. If someone has a lot to change, a lot of changes to make, i.e., diet, sleep, movement, mindset, where do they begin? I mean, you are I think you're well equipped to handle that one.
Okay, so this is something that I have every new client do for us. So I'll just share it with you guys, and you can take with it what you will. So whenever somebody comes into the door, they walk in and they know that they have a problem.
He wasn't laughing at her. He's sitting in a bed right now, so his breathing is a little obstructed. He coughed.
Yeah, I
Just
also
want to explain what just
haven't
happened right
slept
now.
in 24 hours.
He's with his family. He's in Florida, so obviously his body's in a worse position just being in that state.
Yikes.
All right, back to Kate's answer.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so back to the exercise, guys. So when somebody comes in with a problem, first they already know that they need to change something, right? Something needs to change. They aren't where they want to be, but a lot of people are not problem aware. So it's the beliefs, actions, habits, behaviors, narratives, etc., that have compounded to get you to this point. Okay. So if we can accept that, then what we need to do is really deep dive into where you are and what's gotten you here. so that we can be aware of all of the problems, whether it's stress management, emotional eating, lack of discipline, not knowing anything about food, not knowing what exercise or how to exercise, right? Not drinking enough water. Like, what are the things? What are the things that have compounded your health to get to this point? Then what I ask them to do is map out exactly who it is they want to be on the other side of this experience. What does she look like? How does she carry herself? How does she advocate for herself? Is she confident? What does she walk around looking like? Like, get as clear as possible on the personality, temperament, and the ambition of the boss bitch human being that you want to become, right? Who do you want to be on the other side of this? Great. So now that we have those things down, we can go a step further and start bridging the gap. But my first question always is, and people are always kind of flabbergasted when I ask them this, is what are your fears when it comes to pursuing this? And I ask them that because a fear that you cannot overcome a fear if you refuse to acknowledge that it exists, number one. And number two, in order for us to build confidence in your ability to navigate hard things, we have to be willing to face the fears, the things that are holding you back, right? If you're afraid to walk into a gym because you think that everybody else is going to judge you because you have high expectations of yourself to be able to perform in an arena that you've never competed in before, well, then you have to let that belief go. And is that something that we are willing to face head on together? Right. And so for the first week, I'm just looking at what are their lists of fears? What is the lowest level one that we can face together head on? Right. Maybe that's walking outside. Right. Maybe that's preparing your breakfast and bringing it to work because you don't want your coworkers to judge you because they eat the donuts that everybody brings into the employee room. Right. And so whatever that is the first thing that I have them do. One, it gives them confidence. Two, it gives them momentum. And three, it breaks the belief that they couldn't do it because they didn't believe they could or they would have tried before, right? So now we have momentum. And then we can look at other factors. Like if you don't drink water, like let's aim for 4 bottles of water a day, right? You can do anything, but you cannot do everything. And you certainly cannot do everything all at once. And so the more that people try to stack on all of these different items to accomplish in week 1, no wonder you're burnt out or you feel frustrated or you feel like you're failing, right? That's too many things. And we also have to recognize that the goal of having a healthier and more fit life is to continue to get more healthy and become more fit over time. And so it's not a 12-week challenge. It's not a 30-day challenge. It's not doing this as fast as possible so I can just be done with it. And as soon as you can accept that this is a pursuit that will inevitably continue to challenge you as you push past your own upper limits, as you continue to grow through that, there will also be further challenges that you have to face head on. And so when you remove the timeline or the end date and feeling like, well, I have to rush to get this all right because it needs to be done tomorrow, it's like, no, that's not true. That's just a belief that you have. But that belief has carried you to seek out surface level solutions, which have gotten the weight off, and then you've gained it back, and then you've gotten down, and then you've gained it back. And then we have other issues, and your relationship with food is fucked, and your relationship with yourself is fucked, and then you got body image issues. And it's like, it's because you've continued to do this because you keep playing the short game. And so you have to delay that level of gratification to focus on what behaviors, habits, beliefs, narratives, and systems have I incorporated this far? What am I afraid of changing? And what hard thing am I willing to do and face head on today? And when you do that, then you already have a tactical step. And in the moments that you feel emotional to engage in a behavior or habit that you previously had that gotten you to the first point, you at least have a frame of reference because you've mapped out who you want to be, where you can pause and go, well, what would she do? And so whether you choose to engage in that action or not, you know exactly what would be aligned with where you tell me you want to go. And then you have the power to either engage in some struggle because you have to overcome resistance to do something that you haven't done before in this current emotional experience that you have. Or you have the pain of going back to something that you know doesn't serve you and then carrying forward the guilt and the shame of your inability to step into some uncertainty on this side. But if you have the courage to step into the uncertainty on that side, you then will have, 1, broken the belief that something bad would happen when you do that, because it won't. And 2, now you have confidence in your ability to do things that you don't have a lot of certainty around, right? Because then that amplifies your ability to take different risks in your own life, knowing that inevitably you can do hard things because you've proven it to yourself with enough evidence that you can be brave for 20 seconds and you can overcome this fear and you can choose a different outcome. And when you have that in front of you, then you always have the power to make a better decision. And once you have that confidence, then you can start to stack the diet, sleep, mindset, movement, all those things on top of it. But it starts small. What one thing can I do with the first thing in the morning to start my day off great? Maybe I wake up, I chug some water, and I take a 10-minute walk. I've already started my day off on a great foot. I'm not going to let that go backwards. Whereas if you wake up, you drive through Starbucks, you get the, I don't know, croissant, and you get a double mocha latte frappuccino thing. It's like, okay, well, you didn't really do anything difficult, and you're filling that that desire to have that dopamine hit of this delicious thing that you had, that you always do, it's like, okay, well, then you're going to continue to engage in habits and behaviors that don't serve you. And so first audit, 2, then visualize, and 3, visualization or manifestation without action is complete delusion. And so we have to map out actions that we can take that will start aligning you and taking those steps to travel in the direction in which you've oriented yourself. So that would be my answer.
So start with
Low-hanging.
sleep.
I think what she said was low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then an action, I think even with the aspect of mindset, which you addressed with asking those questions, what you're afraid of and all of that, I think sometimes people, they're waiting for that mindset, aka motivation, to start doing something, and there's just no way around the fact that action is going to create that motivation and that mindset. You have to start doing things. So the answer to that question is exactly what you said. Which one can you start to do?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's This
What do
one
you
could
think?
be
I want to say,
this
what
one could
do
be
you think most people are afraid of? I have my
failure.
thoughts.
Failure or judgment. To me, it's either one of those.
Yeah, but
two.
I think that we need to reframe failure, because this drives me bullshit. Failure is not trying something and not being excellent at it. Like that is just an unrealistic expectation of self, especially if you've never done it. Right? You don't expect a neuroscience to be a NBA basketball player because they're really good at science. Right? So it's like those two things, but we delude them when it comes to health and fitness. It's like if you know nothing about food and you grew up in a culture where everybody ate processed food and you guys ate and drank and smoked and were merry all the time, and now your health is at a consequence where you have to change that, but you don't even know what healthy looks like. It's like, how can you expect yourself to excel in that on your first try? If you've never picked up a weight, but you want to go do a power clean, it's like, good luck. Like, you're probably going to hurt yourself. And so failure to me is not trying and coming up short. Failure to me is talking yourself out of entering the arena in the first place, because you will never know. And you've already counted yourself out of the game because you didn't have the courage to step in and try.
I think a lot of the people that I work with who struggle with doing the things they need to do to get to their goal. People who maybe have been with me for a while, who know what they need to do. It's this social aspect. I have a big social life, and I don't want to miss out on those things, and I don't want to lose these friends by not engaging in it, but I struggle to not engage in the food and the alcohol when I'm in those events. And I think there's this just big fear of that life change of like, who are my friends going to be, or judgment from them for me making different decisions than what I used to make. So not necessarily the failure, but that judgment from friends and possible loss of friends.
So I think that if someone that you loved came to you and said, Jimmy, I'm unhealthy. I need to prioritize my weight loss here. I'm taking this super seriously. And so I love going out with you, but I'd really appreciate you don't pressure me to drink. And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable if I say I don't want to drink. I just wanted you to understand why. If you were my friend, you would say, dude, that's fucking dope. I'm here to support you no matter what. I still want you to come have a good time, but I'll make sure that, you're not feeling pressured by anybody. I'll look out for you. That's a friend, right?
Yeah.
Someone that wants you to excuse their poor behavior is going to give you a hard time because they want to feel validated in their decision making by you interacting with them in this pursuit, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think, one, I would challenge the idea that that person is your friend, depending on how they navigate that situation. And then number 2, one of the biggest issues I see with people across the board when it comes to these types of things is they do not give themselves permission to set a boundary. And then they try to set a boundary, but their perception of what a boundary is I have to say it. And then if they cross it, it's their fault. And if I act out because they pushed my boundary, it's still their fault. It's like, no, your boundary is for you to uphold. And so if I say I'm not drinking for the next 6 months, and then I go out and my friend hands me a drink and I drink it, that's not their fault. That's my fault.
Yeah.
1, I put myself in that situation. And 2, even being in that situation, the moment somebody handed me a drink, I could have said, you have it, I'm not drinking. Easy. But people don't do that. And because and this is because our brains have evolved to be more negative seeking, right? We seek out all the potential negative downsides of any decision. And they tend to amplify in the gravity of what the experience might be. But when you face it head on, it's not as bad as you ever thought that it would be. And so I think it's just, 1, setting your boundaries, 2, examining your friendships, and 3, and the most important, is you lack a level of self-respect. Because if I respect you and you tell me that you don't want to eat fried food and you don't want to drink beer with me on Sundays anymore, I'm not going to put you in a situation to do that, nor am I going to force your hand at it, right? But if you respect yourself enough and you say, I'm not doing that, and then you go do it, well, I can only imagine the amount of disrespect that you accept from other people or things or experiences in your own life because you don't even have a level of self-respect to say, I don't deserve to treat my body like this. I don't deserve to feel like this. I deserve a higher experience and quality of life. And in order for me to achieve that, I need to be disciplined in this arena because it's that important to me. I'm done treating myself this way. I'm done experiencing things like this. I'm done eating like an asshole and drinking till I'm fucking blackout. Like, I'm done doing that. I'm just done. And that is my level of self-respect. And I can ensure that I follow through with that because I am also responsible for any amount of food that goes in my mouth, any amount of alcohol that goes into my body. And that's where it's like, you need to look at how you even see your own inherent value in your self-worth. And if you do not respect yourself, you cannot expect other people to respect you either. And so it starts with an internal belief and viewpoint of your sense of self.
Yeah, I think sometimes it comes back to just the general anxiety that people have and a social anxiety that they have, and they can't. They're just not comfortable being in those positions. And they feel like they need the alcohol to actually relax and unwind and hang out, and they need to go through that moment of being uncomfortable. You had referenced that. Get uncomfortable in those moments to get used to it, because our brain just does what it's used to. It just wants to be comfortable, and comfort is just what it's used to, no matter how painful that is.
Yeah, and I think again, if you've never gone to an experience without being the drunk one, then maybe you should go to an experience and not be the drunk one.
Yeah.
And then you'll know, like, is it that bad? I don't know. But if you continue to buy into the belief that, oh, I have to get drunk to enjoy this, it's like, well, you're telling yourself a story that's not actually true. It just excuses poor behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Aram fell asleep.
Hence why I don't go out with drinking people if I'm not drinking.
I just don't have a social life, so it's easier for me.
I don't really have a social life either. So
Same.
This one's fun. Johnny or Joni, I don't know. Okay to weight train fasted? Question mark. 6 a.m. start. Eating beforehand makes my meals run out before evening.
I'll answer. I didn't go for. I have zero problem weight training fasted at 6 a.m. if you ate enough the night before. When you're simply going from the idea that your glycogen stores are full in your muscles, if you ate your food the day before, you didn't train that night, you went to sleep, you would be fine. Some people just need a little something maybe to settle their stomach, but yeah, if you're gonna have anything small, easily digestible, banana, put a little honey on it, smash it up, get some quick carbs in if it makes you feel better. But otherwise, if you ate the night before and you're well fed over a 24-hour time period, then I don't think training fasted at 6 a.m. is a problem.
I'm going to tackle the second part of that question because I don't care about the first one.
All right, well, go for it.
Train
Go for
however
it,
you
head
want.
honcho.
The meals that run out before evening thing is just a planning problem. It's got nothing to do with you eating or training early. It's just got everything to do with you not planning your day better. So if you're going to try to train in the morning and train fasted, or if you wanted to eat before you trained.
I mean, how big is that meal before 6 a.m.? You have a 600 calorie meal at 5 a.m.
I know that well, I couldn't do it.
I think that the whole I hate questions like this because they give you no context. I'm going to make some assumptions about this person. 1, they follow a lot of bodybuilders. 2, they're in a calorie deficit. Those are the 2 assumptions I can make. If you're running out of food for a certain time and then you're focused on, do I train fasted or do I not train fasted? Is it bad for me? Is it going to impact my gains? Blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming that you follow a plethora of people that are more neurotic about the 2 to 5% that may or may not impact anything. So 1, if we're in an extreme calorie deficit where you're running out of meals before the evening, right, then we may want to examine nutrient timing, meal timing, how the depth, the calorie deficit that you're in, how long you've been in it. Is it sustainable for you? Are we struggling to even adhere at this point? So that would be my first question. And then as far as training fasted, I think that if you are someone whose biofeedback suggests that you suffer with training because when you are unfed, then you should prioritize having some nutrition prior to training. If you are someone that can wake up and have great energy and go smash a training session and then need to eat afterwards, then do that. It's not good or bad. It's just context dependent based on the individual and what their demands are in order to perform and recover appropriately.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a combination of all of those things.
Yeah. And for somebody that's trained at 6 a.m., even for like a solid meal to be usable fuel is not going to be instant. So sucking something down at 5:30, that's not really fueling your workout that's starting at 6 o'clock. It just might make you feel better to have a little something in your stomach, which is why I would say just have something light, like eat a banana or something real light, just to settle your stomach, make you feel a little bit better. But it sounds like he's okay training at 6 a.m. fasted. It doesn't sound like it's a problem for him to do that. He's just concerned if that has a negative effect. But his post-workout meal could be a real that like you said, nutrient timing. Focus on that post-workout meal. Get a solid meal post-workout. You're immediately getting into recovery and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the bodybuilder comment I think was the best one. Is that the context behind that question makes me seem that it seem that there's just not enough fuel for training. Period.
Yeah.
Which at that point, none of it's going to be comfortable. It's all going to suck.
Yeah, which is why he might feel depleted in the morning if he's not getting enough.
That's what I mean. Like, even like, yes, if he's at maintenance and if you ate before bed, that's fine. But if you're in a calorie deficit and your last meal is at 5 p.m. and then you're getting up at 5 a.m., well, that's 12 hours. And then if you're having a grueling training session and let's say you're not on PEDs or anything that's going to enhance anabolic activities, then okay, well, we need to kind of take a broader image of that certain person's context to be able to give them a specific answer to that question.
Yeah. So basically, he needs to get on PEDs. Go ahead. Next question.
Steroids.
He needs steroids. Trenbolone sandwich.
Best way to approach splitting up a training day into 2 sessions when time is short.
So 2 sessions in one day.
I would say this.
No, I think it's just taking a training session and splitting it out into 2 sessions throughout the day because this person feels like they're not getting enough time to complete the session.
Yeah, so doing a 2 session, but in one day, 2 sessions, not 2 sessions in a week.
Correct.
No, she's saying if I fall short of time, what is the best way to split this up?
Finish it later.
However,
once you run out of time, stop. And then once you have time later, continue. That would be my suggestion.
Pick up where you left off.
Kate has a better answer, though.
Well, I just, again, like, so a lot of times I see a program and there's a lot of fucking junk volume in there. You don't need to do 13 exercises in a workout. You really don't. You should be able to have a very good training session in about an hour, right?
Max,
5 to 7 exercises, 3 to 4 sets, pushing intensity. You should still feel great. You shouldn't be fucking drained and it shouldn't take up all your day. So I would say if it's taking you that much time to get through your training, you might want to revisit your training. Like, unless you're just going for like 20 minutes and you're breaking it up to like 2 20-minute sessions, I'd say, well, do it in the evening when you're done and you have a full hour to commit to that. Like, you should be able to commit an hour to working out. And within that hour that you are committed to working out, you should be able to get through a good training session.
I'll give an anecdote just because I have one in my back pocket. I have a woman that I work with and she's got more shit on her plate than I think I've ever seen anybody have. And she breaks up her training sessions in between shit she's got to do throughout the day, and she's been making great progress. She probably totals out in an hour of exercise on the days that she trains, and she does train relatively hard. So it works. I mean, she does like 20 or 30 minutes in one shot, goes and does stuff for the kids, goes and does stuff for work, goes back in at night when the kids are asleep and does another 20 or 30. It seems to work fine. She's not moving backwards. She's taking care of her nutrition. She's understanding progressive overload. She's picking exercises that she connects with. Like, she's got all of her ducks in a row. So I think at that point, unless you have some very severe performance or aesthetic goal that requires you to be in there for some length of time, you can split them up. I think you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah. Alex Hormozi talked about he saw some of the most growth when he was working out for 10 minutes every hour. Like, so he's working for 50 minutes, whatever, and then he did 10 minutes. So he would knock out whatever, his 4 sets of biceps. An hour later, did 10 minutes and got his 4 sets of whatever. Kind of just dispelling that myth that it all has to be done in one clump.
Yeah.
For his goal of growing, maybe
Sure.
not cardiovascular health, but
This is a fucking rabbit hole question. My God.
Great.
Steps in building a solid training program. Talk about
if
lack of
you do
context.
not know how to build your own training program, buy a training program.
There's 3 people here that are well versed. Hire any one of us or all 3 of us simultaneously.
Yes.
What's a
The best answer that I can give anybody just on the principle of this question, if you want to learn something that you don't already know, hire someone that knows the answer.
Absolutely.
You will learn a lot by doing that.
okay, go buy the book Periodization by Tudor Bumpa.
Or
it'll explain some
I
stuff.
mean, the amount of books out there, but if this is a layperson, which I'm going to assume it is, those books get real. Like I bought Brad Schoenfeld's recent strength training for hypertrophy book, and I know a lot about this stuff. And there was points of that book where I was just like,
Gets too much.
I just don't fucking care, Brad. Just stop.
Go and
talking.
fuck.
And I
go-
think people get lost in the sauce. It doesn't have to be complicated. That's
No.
the
No.
beauty of it. It genuinely does not have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people. This is gonna sound kind of bad. I think a lot of people manipulate other people by talking about really big words or adding these
Yes.
2 little variables that in the end might make a 1/4% difference.
When I
We
think
like the word.
I
We like the word minutia here, Kate. You can use that.
Okay, minutia.
and if you can
Minutia.
think of any kind of a segue into anything, it's always a
Minutia
good
and
word
segue
to
are
throw in
two
there.
favorite words.
But I think that a lot of people, they're not training nearly as intensely as they think. Their diet is not on point at all.
Fair.
And they're sitting there going, something's wrong with this training program. And it's like, it's not. There's
Well,
probably
not even
nothing wrong with the
that.
training program.
But you also have to have realistic rates of muscle growth, which are not the same as rates of fat loss. And so you don't
Yeah.
go work out for 2 weeks and your shoulders are fucking blowing up. Like that's not
Mm.
happening.
Mine
And then
obviously
if you've never trained close to failure, then you
Yeah.
don't know what failure feels like. And so of course
Yeah.
your intensity isn't going to be that high.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to go, okay, I need to figure out where my limits are. I need to figure out what failure feels like. I need to figure out,
Yes.
okay, well, if I failed at 15, maybe I try to do 2 reps shy, so 12 to 13 reps. And these are the working weights that I'm going to use. And then my goal is to progressively overload from there. It's not that complicated, but you have to practice some level of self-awareness and auditing your own performance to ensure that you continue to succeed.
Yeah, I
But
think
we're
a lot.
also-
Yeah, a lot of
we're
people are
all-
just working out. They're just going there, lifting some stuff. Oh, I felt a little burn. Ooh,
We're also
I'm
assuming this individual has a very clearly defined goal, which most people don't. So I think that's probably, if you're going to start anywhere, start with being really crystal clear on what it is the fuck that you want to achieve. Do I
Yeah,
want to
well,
fit
and why
into
do you
this?
want to
Do
build?
I want to be?
But why do you want to build your own
Do I want to
program?
change my physique? I mean,
Why does somebody want to build their own program? Like that would be my question. Why do you not want to spend $50 on a MAPS anabolic from Mind Pump Media when they have a sale? Do you not want to spend $50 for some program that you can get online and just follow it?
are we sponsored by them now? Is that why you said that?
Well, they Venmo me every time I reference it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mind pump, mind pump.
I have to be the one who says it. Yeah,
I'll take that.
I get 50 cents every time. But
No,
yeah, I mean,
you can literally go on bodybuilding.com right now and print out 150 different workouts, and none of them are inherently bad.
and none
it's
of them
just
are going to be
it-
effective if you're not pushing yourself the way that they're
But-
intended to be pushed.
Exactly, and there has to be a very solid underlying understanding of how to train properly, no matter what the context, whether you're strength training, hypertrophy training, exercising, calisthenic training, plyometric training, like all of these things, or if it's a fucking conglomerate of all that stuff. Tools in your toolbox do not need to be spilled out simultaneously.
And you might not even have the tools yet, and that's okay.
True.
Newbie
True.
gains, just go in and do some fucking fixed movement, leg press, hamstring curls, leg
Yep.
extension, hip thrust, goblet squat. Cool, great workout. See
Yep.
how far you can go with that. And then once you've mastered that, you'll probably see some body composition shifts, and then we can open it up to some free weight exercises. But like meet yourself where you are and then go, okay, I know how to do this. I can get better at this. And like, cool, that's great. You went and worked out. Most people don't work out more than like once if you work out more than 3 times or 3 times a week, you're in like the top 1% of people. Like most people don't even do that.
But god damn it, is the bar low now. I
I
mean,
read that statistic and I was flabbergasted. I was like,
So
oh
I'm,
my
I'm
God.
none of that shit surprises me anymore.
have you guys ever heard of the movie Wall-E cartoon?
Yeah, with the robot movie.
Yeah, and it's like Earth has become so, I guess, polluted. There's so much trash, and they're like flying them around in spaceships while they clean
Yep.
up Earth. And Wally's one of these little trash compactor things, and they're showing the videos of like, hey, you know, when you come here and you're on the Axiom ship or whatever. I was watching it the other day with Hendrix, and they're like, they got these floating chairs. Like they even have this. You don't even have to walk around. And every human that they're showing was very overweight. And Hendrix even pointed out, he's like, everybody's fat in this movie. Like every human was fat in the movie. And it was just this, and they just became like second class citizens. It was a whole, you know, there's like a whole underlying theme in this movie of how like we're destroying the earth kind of a thing, but then also we're just destroying ourselves, and all the conveniences that we keep allowing to take over our lives are just ruining us. And then these people were more easily manipulated to just continue to be lazy and out of shape and controlled and all that stuff. It was just
So
interesting.
social commentary. And the last but not least question.
Who are you, Kate?
Assuming Kate did have a social life,
Oh, okay.
where
Wow,
would
this
she
is going to be
go?
a fabricated answer right now. This
Where
is
would she go? What would she do and why?
Why does it look
Okay.
like that's like a giant vape in her hand? Even though it might,
She's doing drugs on air, folks. She is doing drugs,
it was like either like
narcotics,
lotion or
I'm
the
not
biggest.
I'm not doing drugs like a gentleman.
stage one, class
All
one
right,
narcotic.
if
It's
I was
okay if
gonna
it was.
do
It was just
if I was
very
gonna do
large.
something fun, I'll show you later. Okay, so if I was gonna do something fun, I would go. I don't know. I want to go.
Just
I love experiences, so I'd want to go somewhere where like there's really good food, there's a really good view. I can be outside, probably a concert with music, and then just like somewhere that is well lit as well. Like I love Christmas lights, so like any type of event that has just lights as a part of it.
so you
And
got to go
then
to Red Rocks. Go to Red Rocks. Find a concert at Red Rocks and go to that. It'll
Who's the
have
dude that
Okay.
you who's the dude that you're listening
best
to a
place.
lot lately?
the
Dylan
Dermot,
something?
Dermot,
Yeah.
Dermot. Yeah, I'm going to his concert in May.
I was gonna say like that. I feel like you're like me with music. You listen to like one person right now. Like I'm still 100 years old, and the only thing that's on my Spotify is stuff from like 1998.
Listen, you don't, nobody knows this about him. All right. I'm going to reveal something. All he listens to is Stevie B. Most people might not be old enough to know who Stevie B is, but he just
Spring
listens.
love, come back to me. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, that if somebody was to ask me that question, that's exactly how I would answer it. Food, outdoors, the light. Sure, and if I'm on something, that could be even cooler. But Christmas annoys me, so I would say no to the Christmas lights.
It doesn't have to be
Yes,
Christmas. It just has
yes
to be
to
like
other
well
lights.
lit.
Yeah.
I think the well lit thing
give me
was
some,
funny because I'm like,
like give me
daytime, like
well, like
daytime. It's
there
well
was
lit.
that cool little area of Dallas that we went to where like there was all these like cool tea lights and stuff on the streets. That was fun.
Yeah, that's just what I mean. Like it's just like it's a vibe. It's a vibe for
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And then like
We're not
good
gonna
food, good drinks, good music, good people, good view. Just and then yeah, just the experience. And if Dermot's playing, I'm totally there.
yeah,
Dermot. I got to check out who Dermot is.
He's amazing.
gorgeous
You
voice. Sad music though.
yeah, he's
Like
he's a
folk
heartbreaker.
guitar, slow.
He's like a better and better looking and almost about the same type of a style as what's the redheaded English guy?
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. But he's
Really?
better.
I think he's so
I
much
think
better.
I think he's better than Ed Sheeran.
Like the
But
concert that I went to of Dermot, he did the whole thing acoustic. Like that
That's
man
awesome.
can fucking sing. He can play. Like he is talented.
Yeah.
He's
Dermot
perfect.
Kennedy
If you're
or just
single,
Dermot?
marry me, please.
Dermot
It's
Kennedy.
Dermot, if you're listening.
Is it just
Yeah.
Dermot or Dermot Kennedy?
Dermot Kennedy.
It,
Dermot
okay,
Kennedy.
Dermot Kennedy. All right.
I've got some
Well, there
live
we go.
clips from the concert I went to. I will send them to you so you can hear it for yourself.
Jimmy's gonna spend the rest of the evening crying. Thanks, Kate.
Well, I even got VIP tickets so I can meet him
Well, he's
next
got
month.
Kevin
Oh my
Gates
God.
and Dermot Kennedy and Kevin Gates.
Oh yeah. Hey, Ed Sheeran did
This
a song
guy.
with Rick Ross. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we got to branch out.
Mm,
Jimmy, if you were to be given
mm.
one evening to yourself to do whatever you want, what would you be
Hold
doing?
on, I stopped listening. I was listening to Dermot Kennedy.
What's your ideal night out, evening out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He just wants to be left alone in his garage.
I just want to hang out in my garage. If you look at this place,
He's literally living it, folks. He is living the dream right now. He's got a small child's bike that's not his son's, which he clearly is still is abducting children now because
I ride it around so that kids feel safe approaching me.
That sounds terrible. Please cut that from the podcast.
No, everybody knows to
I
avoid
have this so that children feel comfortable approaching me.
Everybody knows to avoid Aram's white van. That's why he's unsuccessful. I have a child's bike.
I know. I even put the ice cream.
Like, hey, you want to learn?
Too.
You want to learn how to ride a bike?
I have nothing to coerce children, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I am. I
Kate's
would
a natural
say
caregiver.
Something similar to what Kate said. Socially, I would much rather go out to a concert. There was a few summers ago. It was like every week, me and a buddy just went to this venue in Philly, and would just see who's there and show up and go to a show. So I like, I like concerts, things like that. You know.
Well,
I'm not a nightclubber like you, Aram.
I'm not a nightclubber either. I just like being around people that I don't know that don't judge me. Kate, thanks for coming on. Thanks for answering some really opaque questions with the utmost detail that I think anybody could ever possibly expect. If anybody wants a really good coach, if anybody wants to interact with a really good human, Kate's probably one of the best out there. Are we allowed to talk about it yet or no?
The event?
Yeah.
Come to the event.
Yeah. So Kate's got an event that she's hosting in Dallas on October 21st. Yeah.
Yep.
We can link that in the show notes so that if anybody wants to come learn from her, from the people that she's going to have there, just be immersed in a really intimate. I went last year. It was a really great experience. Just be in a tight-knit group of people, all like-minded, all very hungry to learn something about themselves that they don't know yet. And Kate delivers on that very, very well. So folks, this is a very self-developmental thing that you should not miss if you want to.
I like it. Aram, you going?
I am going.
Are you speaking?
Yeah.
Look at
He's not announced yet, but now they know.
Well, this will come out in a few weeks.
I always have plot twists that people get as they go. So
the plot twist is I'm doing it pantsless.
Ooh.
That's not really a plot twist.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just it's going to be in my unicorn thong Speedo.
Bring
It's
your
gonna be all about developing unshakable levels of confidence so that when you walk into a room, you can just wear this.
I'm actually bulking for it.
He wants
as you identify as pregnant.
I'm going to show up as my worst self.
He's like, can I make it look smaller by getting my body bigger? That's his goal.
I'm just flattered that you invite me to come and not just be in the crowd and actually just contribute, because last year, because of her event, I was overserved at one of the bars in Dallas, and then I peed on the rug in my hotel room.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
So Jimmy, are you coming to hang out with us? It's gonna be fun.
It sounds like I might be.
Yeah, we'll split a room.
Oh god, I can't share a room with you anymore. We've already done that twice. It's awful. I had to shave his back.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, I respected him enough by having my back shaved at a time.
Talk about someone having your back.
Seriously.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And as always, we like to end with one final question. Bye.